In my last video, I gave everyone a warning that time was almost up. And I praise Elohim that many received this message, and I pray that there is correction and conviction in many. But what I also need to do is really illustrate the times that we are in. In my video, I told everyone to wake up. And through the comments, I saw that many answered the call. What I want to do is to provide a comprehensive perspective so maybe you can fully understand the times that we are in and make sure you are not playing games and that you live through that warning until our time is up. It can be very hard to understand world events and what is going on in the world, even though we have an abundance of 24-hour news coverage along with the internet. They tell us what they want us to know and don't fully connect all the dots so that we are able to understand fully what is going on. They mind control us with their own thoughts and opinions that keep us focused on smaller things and never able to see the big picture. It's the big picture that I want you to see. So I'm going to show you what is going on in the world collectively in a big picture so you can put all the pieces together. Let's begin. The first thing I want to talk about is war. Madonna has a song that she produced with some artist named Quavo. The name of the song is called Future. She recently performed it in Israel at a performance that was highly occultic and apocalyptic. I can't show it for copyright reasons, but in this song, she says, not everyone is coming to the future. Not everyone here is gonna last. What's crazy is that in this performance, while she said this, she pointed at the whole audience and they cheered. But the point I'm making is that her statement is true. They do not shy away from these things, and they feel okay about it because they are telling us. But she says, not everyone is coming to the future. Just look at the lyrics. The reason why this is true is because of the reality of war. Let me explain to you that major world conflict is upon us. War is inevitable, and they are beating the war drums. But we are so distracted and blind that many will only see it coming when it happens. Watch this. War with Russia.
Tonight, the United States is flexing its military muscles as a powerful and urgent warning to Russia.
Tonight, an exclusive look as the U.S. military sends a message of deterrence to Russia, moving 2 aircraft carriers to the Mediterranean, and in a rare move, bringing America's ambassador to Moscow, John Huntsman, on board, a clear signal to Russia.
When you have 200,000 tons of diplomacy that is cruising in the Mediterranean, this is what I call diplomacy. This is forward deployed diplomacy. Nothing else needs to be said. You have all the confidence you need when you sit down and you try to find solutions to the problems that have divided us now for many, many years.
Putin is touting Russia's new invincible nuclear-powered missile that is capable of hitting anywhere in the world, according to him. Putin showed a video as proof, simulating Russian missiles apparently raining down on Florida near the president's Mar-a-Lago estate.
American fighter jets are conducting critical aerial exercises today in the Arctic Circle. The maneuvers are just a few hundred miles from Russia, which has repeatedly sent warplanes close to U.S. airspace in recent weeks. In a story,
War with Venezuela.
The arrival comes as the United States, along with dozens of other countries, are pressing Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro to step down, to be replaced by opposition leader Guaido.
Russia has to get out. What's your next question?
Secretary of State Mike Pompeo warning Russia to stop propping up the Maduro regime amid the ongoing political crisis in Venezuela. Now, this comes as Moscow has reportedly sent about 100 troops to Caracas. Secretary Pompeo saying the disputed president must cede power to opposition leader Juan Guaido.
So here's the question. What specifically is the United States prepared to do if Maduro arrests Guaido?
Well, I'm not going to get into specifics, but we've made very clear we would consider that a major escalation. Wolf, we've watched throughout the day. It's been a long time since anyone has seen Maduro. He had an airplane on the tarmac. He was ready to leave this morning, as we understand it, and the Russians indicated he should stay. We think the situation remains incredibly fluid. We know that there were senior leaders inside the Maduro government that were prepared to leave. They told us as much over the past few weeks, and we're convinced that the Venezuelan people are going to get their democracy back.
Breaking news out of Venezuela, where an attempted coup is underway there. You heard that right. Opposition leader Juan Guaido calling for the military to oust the sitting president, Nicolas Maduro. In an early morning video, Guaido saying, quote, "The moment is now," calling for his supporters to take to the streets, and many answering that call. Crowds gathered around an Air Force base in Caracas, the capital, and both Maduro and Guaido are claiming that they have the support of Venezuela's military. That'll be the key question. Who is right?
Meticulously staged call of unity from President Nicolas Maduro, flanked by his defense minister and the head of military operations. The Venezuelan leader thanked the army for resisting what he described as a treacherous plot to topple him.
Something good has come out of this evil, and that's loyalty. The armed forces were not afraid to say no to the traitors, no to those taking part in a coup attempt. Let's not be scared. The time has come to defend our right to peace.
War with Iran.
President Trump issued a tough new warning to Iran today, suggesting that if Tehran wants to fight, it will be, in his words, the official end of Iran. Iran says it is not seeking war, even as Tehran-backed militias are accused of firing a rocket near the U.S. Embassy in Baghdad today, and tensions flare in the Persian Gulf.
The Pentagon announced Friday that it would be increasing its presence in the Middle East, sending an additional 1,500 troops to the Persian Gulf. The U.S. remains cautious about an attack from Iran. The deployment will include additional fighter jets and Patriot missile batteries.
Mr. President, are we going to war with Iran?
President Trump's national security advisor, John Bolton, spoke at the annual gathering of an Iranian dissident group known as the Mujahideen Khalq, or the MEK.
The behavior and the objectives of the regime are not going to change, and therefore the only solution is to change the regime itself.
Many Iranians increasingly worried about a military confrontation with the U.S.
It makes you worried when you wonder if there's going to be war, if there's going to be an attack. We don't know what's going to happen.
You can't be not worried. You think about it, oh my God, if it happens, will I die? I mean, but you can't be not worried.
Tensions here in Iran escalated when news headlines reported U.S. claims of an increased threat from Iran. Other reports that the U.S. was reviewing military plans against Iran.
There are many who worry that this growing war of words is creating an escalation that could become impossible to control.
We have made it very clear that we don't want war. We have made it very clear that we don't want escalation. But we have also made it very clear that we cannot tolerate continued Iranian aggression against us and our allies in the region. The world has made that position known. A large number of countries have condemned Iran's actions. Iran is subject to sanctions because of its actions.
When observers see the actions taken by your side, including your most important ally, the United States, they see you as on a path to war. 1,500 extra American troops, another aircraft carrier, diplomats pulled out of Baghdad. They say you're preparing for war.
The pulling out of the diplomats, American diplomats out of Baghdad, I leave that to the Americans to explain. Our understanding is that they felt a perceived threat from Iranian allied militias in Baghdad, and they wanted to make sure that their diplomats were safe. With regards to the build-up in the region, America is our most important strategic ally. America has interest in the region as do other countries, and America wants to make sure that should the Iranians do anything foolish, that the ability and the capability is in the region to deal with it. But nobody wants war, including the United States. President Trump has been very clear about this. Saudi Arabia has been very clear about this. We urge the Iranians to be cautious, to show restraint, and to back off from the positions that they have taken.
War with China.
President Trump commenting on possible deals, talking about China and also talking about Iran earlier today. Let's take a listen.
China is becoming a very weakened nation, just as Iran has become a very weakened nation.
I did think it was interesting that he put the two together there. I don't know what it means maybe from a military perspective or national security perspective, or maybe it does tell us something that he's mentioning China and Iran in the same breath there. Did you make anything of that?
Yeah, well, if the president said something, he's the most powerful man in the world, we all have to pay attention.
Let me ask you one more question about China, then we will talk about Iran, which, to your point, is seemingly the much bigger issue military-wise. But how much of a national security threat, in your view, is China? You mentioned it seems to be an economic event or story, but how much of a national security concern is China right now?
Major. I mean, from a technology standpoint, they've been ripping us off for 40 years. I mean, they and Russia are very aggressive on coming after us in technology and interfering. They're also putting, man-made islands in the China Sea without any interference. It's a very aggressive country. They have a long-term look versus ours, which is normally short-term.
Yeah.
China's a concern. We have to pay a great deal of attention to them, and they're a huge trading partner, as we know.
Breaking news now. President Trump threatens to impose more tariffs against all of China's remaining exports to the United States if talks with President Xi fail in November. These new tariffs could amount to $257 billion of Chinese goods. President Trump and Xi are set to meet at the end of November at the G20 summit in Argentina. The President Xi also calling on his military advisors to prepare for fighting a war. Xi making those comments following his visit last week to the disputed islands in the South China Sea.
America in the crosshairs. A new report from the Pentagon says that China is actively developing its fleet of long-range bombers and likely training its pilots for missions over the U.S. Joining me now.
Taiwan not backing down from China's threats to forcefully retake the island. Taiwan conducting large-scale military drills today, preparing for a possible Chinese invasion. Taiwan has called for international support to combat China's growing threats and out-of-control actions, as they put it.
Here's the thing. The Chinese government almost never says anything you wouldn't expect. That's their thing, their gimmick. They're incredibly careful, reserved, at least with their tongues. So when the Chinese president orders his military to prepare for war, serious indeed.
He urged the military to concentrate on advancing readiness for war.
The Chinese are preparing for war, out loud.
War with Israel versus Palestine, Syria, and Iran.
Explosions rocked the streets of Gaza City overnight as Israeli airstrikes intensified. The Israeli military says it's launched some 220 attacks against targets belonging to the militant groups Hamas and Islamic Jihad, releasing these pictures of a strike on an alleged rocket manufacturing facility. But other buildings, properties and roads have also been destroyed, and a number of Palestinians have been killed, including a mother and her 14-month-old niece.
Now, Israel and Syria have again been locked in a war of words, with both of them accusing each other of firing missiles into their territories. Now, Israel struck Syrian army targets early this morning after Syria reportedly fired rockets at the Israeli-occupied Golan Heights. Now, the attacks have come just hours after the Israeli military accused Syria of firing 2 projectiles towards the Golan Heights, which Israel claims is its territory.
What I've played for you are the major news networks' coverage of these events. These are major things that are taking place right now. This was not last year. The rhetoric is heating up and escalating. We are one bad headline and one major event from full-out world war, where the United States and its allies, the UK, Israel, Saudi Arabia, Japan, etc., are against the emerging powers of Russia and China, along with Iran, Syria, Turkey, Venezuela, and North Korea. Well, the U.S. is trying to control the thing with Venezuela by the regime change, but we'll see how that goes. There is also the major battle between the Zionists of Israel and the Muslims.
Now, Israeli forces have entered the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound in occupied East Jerusalem. They used pepper spray and detained a number of Palestinians who were inside attending prayers. A large group of Israeli settlers also entered the compound alongside the Israeli military. Harry, the mosque compound is normally closed to non-Muslims in the last days of Ramadan. Why did the Israeli security forces enter it, and what more do we know about what happened?
Well, the Israeli security forces aren't telling us why they decided to open it this time. The police say that it's important to note that this is Jerusalem Day, as well as the last day or two of Ramadan. And that's why you see sort of right-wing and religious nationalist people starting their marches now through the old city. We're here at Damascus Gate, at the edge, the northern edge of the old city.
And the ongoing conflict of the Sunnis and the Shiites, which is why you see Saudi Arabia and Iran at major odds against each other. There's also the threat of nuclear war between India and Pakistan.
Also, while the cameras from CNN and Fox News and MSNBC and even the BBC go with nothing but wall-to-wall coverage of Michael Cohen, there is something else brewing that in terms of worldwide implications is actually more newsworthy than those stories. India has bombed Pakistan, and tonight Pakistan is responding. And it turns out now Major General's words are coming to fruition. And then there's these words, uncharted waters. Uncharted waters. That is what a Pakistani ambassador is saying tonight about these attacks between these two countries who once again have ominously the weaponry necessary to literally blow each other up.
This world is on fire. What I'm trying to show you is that war is upon us, whether we like it or not. You cannot just ignore it and hope everyone will work out their differences. These conflicts are engineered. They're supposed to happen. And they are designed to bring us into major conflict. Their motto is order out of chaos. They create the chaos and then bring in their desired order. The bigger the chaos, the bigger the order. And they have been conditioning us to accept this through all of our entertainment. But the problem is just not war. Let's move into trade. We all know that the United States and China are in a highly contested trade war. What most people don't recognize is that this is all about the US dollar. I've made a video specifically about the dollar, and I encourage everyone to watch it to gain understanding. But the trade war is escalating and seems to be a good scapegoat for a global economic collapse, just like this headline confirms. And while the narrative could change, you must understand that the trade war is all about the New World Order, and that's why they give no specifics in what is actually being negotiated. But this trade war is escalating on both sides. Listen.
Today, the most important one was the very authoritative Communist Party's People's Daily posting a column saying, "Don't say we didn't warn you." So it's important because Chinese people are talking about how this phrase was only used 2 other times by the People's Daily in history. So one was in 1962, ahead of the Chinese dispute with India when they went to war over a border. And then in 1978, right before China went to war with Vietnam. So this phrasing is seen as really serious. And I think the question now is, we are definitely...
So the Chinese basically have 3 ways that they can retaliate against the American tariffs. One, of course, is that they can level their own tariffs, and they have done that. Number 2 is that they can make it more difficult for U.S. companies to operate in China. Of course, the big one that comes to mind there is Apple. It could really make Apple's life miserable through a whole host of measures. The third thing that they can do, and this is what we call the nuclear option, is that they can either stop buying U.S. treasuries or they can actually start selling U.S. treasuries back into the market. Now, the reason why this is such an important thing and why we call it the nuclear option is because China is the largest holder in the world of U.S. debt. It's got over $1 trillion, close to $1.1 trillion in U.S. bonds, notes, bills, those sort of things. And the U.S. counts on China to buy up its debt. Of course, that's very important with the U.S. running nearly $1 trillion deficits, which are expected to continue as far as the eye can see. So if China is not a big player in that market, it could make life very difficult for the U.S.
Now, this nuclear option is a big deal. Because if you watch my videos about the coming economic collapse, debt is a big part of this understanding. Maybe you believe the media when they tell you that things are great with our economy. But look at what happened just last month in the markets because of the escalation of the trade war. It's still happening. Look at the headlines. I've explained this already in my economic collapse video. If you don't understand this topic, go to the economic collapse playlist and a great deal will be explained to you. Understand something. The collapse is happening. There is no way to avoid it. The debt of the largest economy in the world, which is the United States, is unsustainable and continuously growing. And on top of that, we are provoking our enemies that are major creditors, owners, and buyers of our debt. And that's why we see so many countries ditching the dollar. This is one topic that the major US news channels are absolutely silent about. But look at these headlines. Major countries are forming bilateral trade agreements, meaning between both of their countries, and they are doing it while bypassing the dollar. This is a big deal. So, we have major provocations of war throughout the world. We have countries dumping the United States dollar, which is the world reserve currency of the world, the foundation of this current global economic system. We have trade wars that are escalating, and the threat of imminent market collapse that appears every time we see a bad headline. While considering all of these factors, the level of uncertainty about the future should be alarming. But when you also understand the goals of the enemy and what Satan desires, when you understand what a new world order is, again, I have a video on this as well, then you should really understand what time it is and what is approaching. Along with this, in the United States, there is also a huge risk of civil war brewing between the racial divides and the political divides.
Right now, a third of Americans actually believe that a second civil war will happen within the next 5 years.
Who's gonna fight for us? People had to die for the freedom where we're at today. We can't just do rallies. We have to fight back. There will be casualties on both sides. There will be, because people have to die to make a change in this world.
Writing in the Walrus magazine this month, Stephen Marsh says the United States shows all the warning signs of impending collapse and suggests Canada get ready for the next American Civil War.
The impeachment of Donald Trump would spark a massive civil war within the country. But yet, the issue is still being pushed.
Now, just a couple days later, it looks almost certain
that the Senate and the Republican senators over there who have the actual authority and responsibility to convict the president and remove him from office, that's where the real key decisions will be made and where I think we need to see some profiles and courage.
Well, several Democrats have been out front on this issue, with some calling for impeachment just hours after being sworn into Congress. Let's watch.
People love you, and you win. Woo! And when your son looks at you and says, Mama, look, you won, bullies don't win. And I said, baby, they don't, because we're going to go in there, we're going to impeach them.
This is not a fight I wanted to take on, but this is the fight in front of us now. This is not about politics. This is about the Constitution of the United States of America. We took an oath not to try to protect Donald Trump. We took an oath to protect and serve the Constitution of the United States of America. And the way we do that is we begin impeachment proceedings now against this president.
You should stay out of the political dissension and racial battles. They want chaos.
An empire toppled by its enemies can rise again, but one which crumbles from within, that's dead. Forever.
Don't allow yourself to be a part of it. There is so much more to cover. I mean, we need to discuss our entertainment, our movies and television, and examine what messages they are promoting, because they are conditioning us all for this. We need to look at all of the social changes that is happening within our culture.
And, you know, my faith always taught me, what would Jesus do?
Yes.
And I know Jesus would be attending that Pride Parade.
With pride.
And I also, with pride.
How what was once good is now considered evil, and what was once evil is now considered good. And the worst part is you are now considered evil if you speak against it. If you believe in the Bible and what it says about the future, then you must seriously get your mind right and get your house in order. We are approaching something that will change everything. And like Madonna said, not everyone is coming into this future. Not everyone is gonna last. They're telling you straight up. Like I said in the warning video, that's why nothing else matters besides your relationship with Yahshua and your submission to the will of Yahweh. Get your spiritual house in order, because that is the only thing that is permanent. We are one headline away from global catastrophe, and all the signs are clear. You cannot ignore it. You cannot stay on the sidelines and just be optimistic, especially if you're a believer in the word of Elohim, because his words tell you that this will happen. You have the Bible confirming this, and then you have the wicked confirming it as well. What more do you need? You have major uncertainty staring you in the face. What are you going to do? This is not about fear. No believer should have fear. You must have faith. You must have strength. You must have a foundation in the truth and unwavering desire to be right with Elohim. I know that it is easy to look at things I just presented and have fear and doubt. Remember, for Elohim has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of a sound mind. And that's all I want you to have, a sound mind when reviewing the course of the world. If you are experiencing anxiety and fear from this topic, pray about it and rebuke the devil in the name of Yahshua. I plead the blood of Yahshua over everyone watching this video. Cast all your anxieties on him. His wrath is not for his children, but it is for the wicked. It's for those on this earth that need to be tested. The simple answer is for you to be strong in your faith and recognize that he is the only thing that matters, and submission to him is the most important thing you can do. I made this video to show you exactly what is going on in the world today, because we are in the time where the truth is hidden, and we are also distracted from it. Some people will not heed the warning from the first video because they don't recognize what time it is. I hope that this video just placed things into perspective. We are approaching a shift that will affect every life on this earth. The only answer is Yahshua, who in English is Jesus Christ. He is the only answer. He is the way, the truth, and the life. No one can come to the Father except through him. So make sure you live like you know this and make your life all about him. Let him guide your path. Take away the feelings of control that you have and live for him, and let him be your answer. Be blessed. Okay, thanks again for watching. If this has blessed you, please do not forget to like it and share it with others. If you have not already done so, do not forget to subscribe to this channel. I upload every Friday. Don't forget to follow this ministry on Facebook and Instagram. As always, I'd like to thank all of you who support this ministry. Your contributions truly bless this ministry, and I'm thankful and humbled by your support. Thank you for being a blessing. Okay, thanks again everyone for watching. Be strong, be ready, and be blessed. I love you all.